Hi, I'm Marc Golde from Rock Garden Studio, and today we're going to talk about the difference between digital and analog mixing. First of all, what is mixing? Well, that's part of the process where everything has been recorded and edited and made the way you like it as far as a performance standpoint and a recording standpoint. Now we have to mix those separate tracks because we've got probably 8 to 12 to 14 mics on the drums. We have bass guitar, we've got other electric guitars, some keyboards, vocals, all the stuff. They have to be mixed together in a way. So mixing is basically taking each one of those tracks and blending them together. And then deciding the balance of each one, the panning, left, right, center, effects such as compression or delay or reverb. With delays and reverbs, we can make something sound like it's farther back or more forward. So you've got this landscape that you're working in, and you're making the decisions to do all that. Once you have that, then you print that mix, and it comes out 2 channels, left and right, one for each ear. Many times it's sent to a mastering engineer at that point, but that's what the mix process is. Now, we'll start with digital mixing. We call this a lot of times mixing in the box, which means once the tracks are recorded, they're in the computer and they stay there for life. They never come out of the computer. Where with analog mixing, you record all your tracks into the computer, and then your computer outputs those separate tracks to an analog mixer, such as this one. Now, is one better than the other? No. There are a lot of terrible sounding analog mixers out there. Terrible. And I'd much rather mix digital than on an old Mackie mixer or something like when I started. So there's just advantages and disadvantages on both sides. So let's first talk digital. Now with digital, you have all the modern conveniences. First and foremost, you have absolute recall, which means you can leave a project from 2 years ago, you pop it up, and it's right where you left it. And as long as you save it, and you can continue working from there, which makes it real easy to make little tweaks or whatever and not change the entire mix. Now, another advantage is you've got emulations of analog equipment typically in your DAWs or your computer program, such as, say, these compressors. Now, if you have a plugin, an emulation of this LA2A, you can use it on multiple channels. So you don't have just one LA2A, you have a bunch. And it's much more cost effective. Now this unit costs $4,000, a plugin could cost you $150. There's a difference there too. So that's really the advantage. There's so much convenience, and it's a great way to keep track of everything that you're doing. You can save multiple versions of things as you go along. I'm sold on the digital thing. I use it all the time. Now, analog mixing, on the other hand, is done in the analog world. Now, here at Rock Garden, I have this beautiful sounding, one of the world's best sounding analog consoles from years gone by. The advantage to this is that it sounds wonderful. You don't have to process a bunch of stuff because the board automatically just makes things sound good. Where when I look at most people's digital sessions, each track has 4, 5, 7 plugins to try to make it do something, to excite it, or whatever they do. I don't know. I'm not good at that. But here, some of my favorite productions, I've used very little processing at all. Maybe a compressor on the lead vocal and some reverb here and there. But I'm not compressing drums like crazy. I'm not doing that. Not that I don't have the option to do that, and I do that once in a while too. But for the most part, it's kind of baked into the board, which is really nice. So I can get to work faster on something. Now, the disadvantage to recording analog, one, we were talking about plugins. I have to have a hardware unit for everything that I want to use it on. So I have to decide the LA2A, I like that on lead vocal, so most of the time it's on the lead vocal. Now I have some acoustic guitars, I kind of like the way they sound through this one or that one, but I've got one per track I want to use it on. Which I have a bunch of compressors, I have delays, I have reverbs, so that isn't really an issue for me. The biggest thing is, this thing was installed in 1973. I believe they started working on it in 1972. Those dates are important because the first personal computer, the Apple I, wasn't introduced to the marketplace until 1976. This does not have any computing. It has no memory. It doesn't care what I did last week. So when I'm operating an analog console, I'm doing it in real time, the same way a musician is performing. I'm making decisions on where things should be. I'm putting the faders where I want. I got the vocal here. I want the backups just behind it. We're going to add a little reverb from the other room here. Maybe some equalizers here. I may plug in some compressors or delays over here. But I'm making all these decisions in real time, and it's actually happening. Okay, now when I do this, that mix is gone forever. Forever. So a lot of times a client will come to me and say, hey, we really love the mixes, but can you just turn down the lead vocal a little bit? Can't do it. I have to set up a new mix, which means remembering what I used for plug-in compressors and stuff and what I put through the patch bay and my EQ settings, and try to recreate that mix and then make the adjustment from there. Now, I do have, with these two buttons, I can go between the prior mix and what I'm mixing in the moment. So I can compare it pretty quick and I can get a new mix up relatively quickly, but I still have to start from scratch with the mix. Anything we do on the computer, any editing, any automation we do up there, that gets recalled. That gets saved. But the actual mixing process is happening here. So if people know that they have to pay money for these revisions, sometimes they get a lot smaller in their minds. Other times they simply can't live with something, so I set up another mix and hopefully it's as good as the mix before, but with the change that they want. But when you're asking me, hey, why can't you just turn down the guitar solo? I don't understand. This is why. So I hope that clears things up a little bit, and happy music making.